everybody, my name is Sheila SL Reads, and today I'm going to be doing a video about the books that I read this semester. I did one of these at the end of first semester, and I like doing it, and I'm pretty sure that if you've been watching my videos, you know exactly what books I've been reading this semester for school. Obviously I've been reading other stuff, but specifically for school, I have read 8 books. 8 plays actually, because they're all Shakespeare plays. I've grouped them in order of the genre of Shakespeare play that they fit into, which there are 4 of, which you'll see. Also, I'm thinking of doing a video that kind of explains not how to read Shakespeare, but just some tips on reading Shakespeare, because one of my friends was asking me about it. She said she wanted to start reading his works, and I was like, well, I guess, I've read 12 of his 37 plays, so might as well just give some people some tips and just talk about the ones that I like and the things that I don't like, and various tropes and plot points that are in a lot of his plays. I've definitely discussed them in depth this semester, so let's just get right into it. So the first play is Richard III, which is a history. So these are plays that follow British history. This one follows Richard III. He is a tyrant. This is kind of seen as the trial run for Macbeth, because they have lots of similarities. There's prophecies, there's a tyrant, there are lots of murders of people who didn't deserve to be murdered. It's the first play that we read this semester, so it was a nice way to get right into it. It's pretty short compared to some of his other plays. It's not one of the well-known or memorable ones. This one at the end of it has the Tudors coming into power, which is the house of Elizabeth I, who was in power when this was written. Shakespeare was kind of writing some propaganda for her and was like, this man was bad, so it's a good thing we have this other line in power because he sucked. So the next 3 plays that I read are 3 of Shakespeare's main tragedies. That is Hamlet, Othello, and Macbeth. Macbeth is my favorite, Hamlet is my second favorite. Othello was alright. I felt a little weird about Othello, but if you don't know about Macbeth, it is actually very historically accurate. So is Hamlet. I don't know about Othello. I don't know if there's actually anybody who was Othello, but there were for these 2. So Macbeth is set in Scotland. It involves Lady Macbeth, involves these prophecies and these witches and someone trying to come to power when he really probably should not. He becomes a tyrant, he's kind of awful, he doesn't think these prophecies are going to come true, and then they do, and you should definitely watch the 2015 Macbeth movie because it was beautiful, and this is my favorite play that Shakespeare has written. I'm going to be watching all the movies about this because I'm obsessed. I also wrote one of my papers about this semester about femininity regarding Lady Macbeth and the witches and Hecate, and who was the other person? I think it talked about Macduff and how he doesn't have a mother and how that's a big plot point. Hamlet is also historically accurate, based on this history of Denmark from the 12th century about some dude named Amleth, who was a lot more bloodthirsty and brutal and ruthless than Hamlet, because Hamlet is the most indecisive person you will ever meet. It's ridiculous. So Hamlet's dad dies, and that sucks. He's like, oh my god, I'm in mourning, I'm wearing black, Horatio, look at me, I'm wearing black. And so from his father's ghost, he finds out that his dad was murdered by his uncle, who then married his mother, so there's lots of weird incestuous stuff happening that Hamlet's really not here for. And so he plots and plots and plots, and it's I should kill him. He's I should kill myself, and he really has no idea what to do. Be or not to be speeches about Hamlet, considering if he should just kill himself, which is really sad. I also wrote an essay about this one, about homosexuality in Hamlet, and technically I consider it to be bisexuality, but I felt that was easier to push past my teacher and be here's what I have to say about this. So yeah, if you ever want to talk about Hamlet and Horatio and how they were most likely actually lovers, I have lots of sources and a whole essay to talk about. It's probably one of my proudest works. I had to make the font smaller to fit it all in. I was that's how you know you're interested in what you're writing about. Othello just made me really sad, so sad, because everybody talks about Romeo and Juliet as the romance, these are the people who are so in love. Othello and Desdemona are so much more in love than Romeo and Juliet were at any point in the play. And the thing is he goes crazy. He has Iago. If you're wondering where Iago comes from, if you've ever heard his name, he comes from this play. And Iago's pissed. He's either mad at Othello because he gave somebody else a high position in the army because he's a general or some big deal in the army. Iago's either mad about that, or he thinks that Othello slept with his wife, which makes no sense. But moving past that, he convinces Othello to kill his wife, which you can see on the cover of this. He's oh, she cheated on you, can't trust women, they're always gonna cheat on you, you're gonna be a cuckold. It's a big thing in Shakespeare, cuckoldry. I have seen that word so many times and it's ridiculous. But yeah, he goes crazy. Desdemona doesn't know what's going on and he ends up killing her, and she literally kind of consents to her own murder. It has one of the only main characters of color in Shakespeare, or non-white Christians. And that is Othello, obviously. It's a big controversy because a lot of the early movie adaptations of this had people wearing blackface, and it's so bad. But there's one with Lawrence Fishburne that I started watching in class, and not only was I wow, I'm in love with Lawrence Fishburne and Othello. I guess I've never seen a picture of young Lawrence Fishburne. I was wow, he looks very, he looks similar, but also so different. and I just really want to watch it now. So moving on to comedies. I don't really like comedies. I've read 4 of them now, I believe. 3 of them were this semester. And I liked one of them a lot, which I'm very happy about. Like, I think it's amazing. The other 2, I was like, oh my god, these are so bad. The first of these is Much Ado About Nothing. I love this. Beatrice and Benedict are so funny. First of all, his name is Signor Benedict, which means Mr. Good Dick, essentially. It's a comedy. I feel bad for Hero because she, like, ended up with, like, the worst man around. There's a lot of, like, bros before hoes. There's this whole thing happening with Hero and Claudio in, like, the foreground of the play, and then the background is, like, people tricking Beatrice and Benedict into falling in love. When, like, there's no, like, reason for that. They're just like, yeah, they should get married because, like, nobody else is gonna marry them. It's really funny, and I really like it, and they're so good. Like, she literally, like, gets mad at Claudio, and is like, Benedict, I know he's your best friend, but kill him for me. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, wow. Everybody just needs a man like that. The next play was The Merchant of Venice. This is so racist. We had to write about, like, interesting things in the back of our quiz to get, like, points for it, and I was like, he's racist. My professor was like, everybody keeps talking about how this play is racist, and that's not, like, the end of it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's, like, a big thing in it. Like, this is a comedy, and there's this whole, like, marriage plot happening with, like, these caskets. They're, like, boxes. There's, like, the lead, the gold, like, all that glisters is not gold is from this play, and there's, like, that whole thing happening. And then in the middle, like, in the 4th act, like, the whole thing is just this trial of Shylock, who is a Jewish man, and he's already lost his daughter who just ran off with some Christian dude. Take away all of his, like, money, all of his land, everything that he owns, and make him convert to Christianity. And I was like, you know, this is just awful. Like, this is so bad. It's not even, like, actually lawful because, like, it's Portia who is this, like, crazy magical, like, in control of her own destiny kind of woman, and she is literally dressed up as a dude, like, officiating this court, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? So Measure for Measure is just, like, the worst play. I did not know Shakespeare had, like, bad plays, and now I know. Now I really know that he does. This involves a duke who is not doing his job the right way, and so he ends up putting somebody else in charge to persecute people for every single crime that he's been ignoring for the entire time he's been in charge. The new guy, whose name is Angelo, puts somebody named Claudio in jail for having sex out of marriage and knocking up his girlfriend. His sister is training to become a nun. Her name is Isabella, and somebody has to go to get her and be like, oh my god, your brother's gonna die. You have to appeal to this new guy, Angelo, to save your brother. And Angelo is like, yeah, I just put your brother in jail for sleeping with someone out of wedlock, but the only way that you'll get him out of jail and not get executed is by sleeping with me. And she's like, no. But at the end of the play, it's like the worst ending because, like, all the dudes end up happy, and Isabella, who wants to become a nun, like, that's her, like, one, like, life goal. The duke is like, hey, marry me. Like, he's, like, hiding off in a monastery as a friar. It ends without her answering and saying if she's going to marry him, and so some adaptations, like, say that she did say yes, and some say that she said no. Some just leave it very ambiguous, just like the play does, but it's just awful. I hated it. There's also this very dramatic scene where the duke is like, oh wow, I'm the friar, and he's, like, talking to the people, and then he runs off stage, comes back in looking like the duke, and then runs off stage, comes back in looking like the friar, and just keeps doing that, and then, like, eventually, like, pulls off his friar stuff on stage and is like, wow, look, I was the Duke the whole time. The final play that I read this semester was The Winter's Tale, which is the 4th genre of Shakespeare play, which is a romance. It is also called a tragicomedy. It's not actually because it's, like, romantic or anything. It's just, like, in the 19th century they came up with this phrase for it, or they started applying this phrase to it. The first 3 acts are a tragedy, and then the last 2 are a comedy. There's literally one scene where, like, somebody comes on stage and is like, hey, 16 years have passed between everything that happened. This has a dude who goes even crazier than Othello, even faster. His king's name is Leontes. His best friend is visiting. He's been visiting for 9 months, which is kind of suspicious because Leontes' wife, Hermione, who is so faithful to him and everything, is pregnant, and she's almost about to give birth, which is also 9 months, and he's a dream, and thinks that Hermione cheated on him with his best friend, which is so strange, and he's like, okay, well, now I have to kill her. His son looks just like him, and he's like, okay, you didn't do anything wrong. His son ends up dying. Hermione ends up dying when he refuses to listen to the Oracle of Delphi, who's literally like, yeah, you're wrong, you're just crazy. Hermione's innocent, like, save your daughter or else you're never gonna have an heir. One of the noblemen takes the daughter, his name is Perdita, and he takes her all the way to Bohemia, which is where the other king was from, his Leontes' friend, and then he, like, leaves her in the hills, and he gets chased by a bear. Exit Pursued by a Bear is from this play, which is, like, the most famous stage direction in all of, like, drama, all of theater, everything. She grows up there, she thinks that she's just, like, not a princess, and then the prince from there falls in love with her. Probably would have gotten married anyways. They get tricked into going back to Sicily. The king is there, and he, like, finds out that that's his kid. Suspiciously, this one lady, Paulina, who has been advising him this whole time, she was, like, best friends with his late wife. She's been going to this one house. She goes there, like, once a day, and everybody goes there to see, there's this statue of the queen and she looks 16 years older. Wow. And then it turns out it's just like it's just the queen. So it's very like ambiguous whether she was dead and then came back or if she was alive the whole time. Like, no one really knows. Those are all the plays that I read this semester. It was very fun. I loved my Shakespeare class. I just declared a minor in English, so I'll be taking 2 English classes next semester. I'm very excited for those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!